One of my favorite authors is Charles Dickens, and I've pretty much read all of his books and most of his short stories. But the one that I find the most touching is A Christmas Carol. Now, despite the name, it's not a Christian book. It's not about Christianity. It's not an attack on Christianity. It's nothing of the sort. It's a moral story, a story with a moral for anyone, no matter your religion or your beliefs. Now, before I get into that story, I want to talk about Dickens himself. So, if you look at all Dickens's works, as much as they are fun and they are really good stories, and from my kid days, I used to enjoy his stories like Oliver Twist. It's also important to remember that these stories are social commentaries. They are commentaries about life in the British Empire. Remember, Dickens was writing at the height of the British Empire, that empire which was the biggest empire that God had ever created, known to men, I don't know, 25% of the world, etc., etc. But Dickens showed another side to that empire, the side that nobody else was talking about. That despite all of that wealth, despite of all of that success that they had, people were still suffering. There was widespread poverty, exploitation, child labor, injustice, right there in Britain. I mean, if you read Oliver Twist, you get a very poignant reminder of the child labor that was driving the industrial revolution of the empire. The conditions which Oliver had faced, according to historians, was the exact conditions that Dickens himself faced as a child. When his father was locked up in debtor's prison, Charles Dickens himself was sent to a workhouse where he had to labor as a child, as a young child. And Oliver Twist is a representation of that. Then there was exploitation in society. It was basically a dog eats dog society where the powerful preyed on the weak, where the rich became richer and the poor became poorer. And more wealth was concentrated into the hands of the few. Ironically, that was the downfall of the British Empire, because the British Empire went from, and if you read the books of history, it went from mighty empire to tiny little insignificant island in the course of like 20 years. It wasn't just the wars. It wasn't just World War One and World War Two. It was that Britain had run out of money because the money was being hoarded. And like Ghazali used to say, hoarded money is dead money. Money that is not circulating is as good as dead, is useless. And if money does not circulate in an economy, then it is starving that economy. It leads to all kinds of evils like inflation, poverty, scarcity. Does that sound familiar? So anyways, let's go back to Dickens' A Christmas Carol. So Dickens was highlighting, all the way from the title of the book, he was highlighting this false sense of religiousness among his society, where people claimed to be religious, and no one claimed more ardently than the British to be proper Christians. But their Christianity was a warped version of the true teachings of Jesus, which was to take care of the needy, to stand on the side of the oppressed. That was the teachings of Jesus. That was the teachings of Muhammad, peace be upon them both, great prophets of God. That's what they taught. But yet, during the British Empire, and this persists up till today, there's a lot of lip service given to being religious. Nowadays, it's all about identity. It's all about your sense of superiority over others. It's all about theological hair splitting than about what truly matters. It's all about debating, right? My religion is better than yours. My way of life is better than yours. It's like one scholar said, people are not reading your religious books. They are reading you. But I'm moralizing. Sorry about that. Back to the story. So the story revolves around a mean, stingy old man called Ebeneezer Scrooge. Now that name is significant. I'll come back to that. So one night Scrooge sees a vision of an apparition, a ghost, that said to him, "You are going to be visited by three ghosts: the ghost of the past, the present, and the future. The ghost of Christmas past, present, and future." So long story short, the ghost of the past showed Scrooge what his life was like, what kind of a person he was, and what he had, and everything that he lost because of this pursuit of wealth of his. Ghost of present showed him that there are people who are being directly impacted by his stinginess. There are people who do really care for him, but who are paying a price because of his stinginess. And Ghost of the Future showed him what will be in the future if he continues on this path, what he will be remembered for. And so when Scrooge saw all of this, it impacted him so heavily that he immediately mended his ways and he became a much more kind-hearted, generous person. He basically underwent a transformation. Happy ending, good story. Unfortunately, that might have been for Scrooge, but it wasn't for the empire. The empire never changed. Dickens's society never changed. If anything, it got worse and worse until now we find ourselves in the 21st century where all those problems still persist. Oppression, starvation, hunger, poverty, wealth inequality still persist. It's because of greed. It's because of hoarding. I mean, when we look at some of the wealthiest countries in the world, take the USA for example. The richest country ever, or the greatest military ever. But really, what lies at the soul of it? What you see there is that the wealth of the entire nation is being concentrated in the pockets of the 1%. I mean, if you take a person like Elon Musk, they say he's worth $1 trillion. Can you imagine how insane it is that one person has in his pockets $1 trillion that he is hoarding and he is circulating among himself and his friends only? Wealth that is being dammed up, wealth that is being stored in the pockets of a few. Imagine $1 trillion, what it could do to the economy if it's pumped back into the economy. So this is the problem. And the 1% in the US have gotten richer and richer over the past 2 decades, 2.5 decades. Whenever there was a financial meltdown, they got richer. During the lockdowns, they got richer in leaps and bounds. So what Dickens was trying to say was unfortunately largely unheeded, and it led to the fall of the British Empire, and it's going to lead to the fall of other empires also, unless they mend their ways. Now let's come back to Ebeneezer Scrooge. The name Ebeneezer is from the Hebrew word Eben al-Ezer. This was a stone, a commemorative stone that the prophet Samuel had set up after the victory of the Banu Israel, the children of Jacob, the children of Israel, because his name was Israel. The prophet Jacob has nothing to do with any modern country. So because they had victory, he erected the stone and he called the stone of victory, so that whenever people saw it, they would remember that victory. So I think there's a terrible irony both in the title of the book, A Christmas Carol, and in the name of the main character in the book, because A Christmas Carol is Dickens trying to say that Christmas is about more than just singing carols and about buying things and gifting and merrymaking. It's supposed to be about something deeper than that. It's supposed to be about the poor. How can you be enjoying yourself at home with your family and friends when there are poor people in society who can't even afford a meal, people who can't afford medical care for their children, oppressed, people who are being removed from their homes? How can you enjoy yourself knowing all this? This is what Dickens is trying to say. And as far as Ebeneezer, he's trying to say that, dear British Empire, the empire that I live in, that I am a product of, You've enjoyed such wealth, you've enjoyed such victories, and yet you use that for to satiate your greed, not for any other good. So those of you who are not that much into reading, A Christmas Carol is a short story. It's not even a full-length Dickensian novel like Bleak House, which is 1,000 pages with tiny writing. This is a short story. Read it, and read it to your kids. There's even a Jim Carrey movie, but not so good. To me, the book is also a very important reminder to aspiring entrepreneurs in Africa that you need to do business in a way that is very different to the way it was done in the West. We can't replicate their way of doing things, because what they did wasn't always right. It was often wrong. And to give you an example, other than the human exploitation, look at the damage that they caused to the environment. At one stage, scientists say during the 1800s, Britain, France, and Germany alone killed 1 million whales just for the oil, 1 million sperm whales, and that oil was used to lubricate the machines in the Industrial Revolution. Now, let me ask you, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to lose your moral compass to a point where you are willing to murder innocent creatures? Are you willing to put children into labor? Are you willing to use slave trade? Of course not. You are Africans. You are different. You love the land. You love people. You want to do this, and you want to do this the right way. And it's not about large numbers. It's not about being millionaires and billionaires and trillionaires. It's about doing business and earning a good income, a comfortable living for yourself and your family. And it's about giving back. And that's the ultimate moral of the story. Give back.